So it was a good experience. So, okay, Parasmay and Pooja, where do you live?
We live like up near Mill Creek in Bothell.
Creek. Okay. Madhu and Monica, who are there on the call, they also live in Mill Creek. So, okay, good. Okay, let's continue. So we began this series with search for happiness, and everyone acknowledges that we are not really happy in this material world. Despite all the scientific advancement, the science and technological advancement, there is always some pinprick in everyone's life. So everyone has their own set of problems, and even if a person doesn't have any problem, they don't feel content. They don't feel satisfied. They're always feeling like something is missing. So let's say somebody has a good job and good wife and husband, good kids. There's a good house, good family relations. Everything is nice. They're all partying, vacationing. Everything is nice, but still they don't feel content. They don't feel content. They don't feel satisfied, because the happiness that they get is temporary. It's flickering happiness. So it doesn't fulfill, it doesn't give the satisfaction to the soul. So then we started discovering the root of the problem. Okay, we know that there are so many problems in the material world, but what's the root? So then in topic 2, does God exist? So when there are problems, then we turn to God, right? So there are problems. We all acknowledge that there are problems in material world in everyone's life. Then the potential candidate that we turn to is God, and we start wondering, why did God create this world like this? Why did God create this world like this? So miserable, full of problems, you know. So then we started discovering the root. Does God exist? What's the origin of this universe? And what's the origin of life in this universe? If at all God is there, why did God create the material world like this? So we discussed that in topic 2, does God exist? And then, who am I? So we say that I want to be happy. During topic 1, search for happiness, we discussed that everything that we do in our life, we study, we get married, we get a job, we participate in some entertainment, we go on vacations, we buy nice houses, nice cars, we do so many things, everything in the name of happiness. Whatever you do in your life, your ultimate goal is to get happiness. So I want to be happy. So when you say I want to be happy, first we have to define who is that I. We have to define who is that I. What's our true identity? So man, woman, American, Indian, Chinese, Japanese, these are all man-made designations. These are all man-made designations which are temporary. But our true identity is the spirit soul. The soul is eternal and material body is temporary. And then we discussed the characteristics of the soul. Krishna teaches characteristics of the soul in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, Sankhya Yoga, contents of the Gita summarized. There, Krishna gives knowledge of the soul to Arjuna. Atma Tattva, Atma Jnana. So we discussed some of those in previous 2 sessions. Okay, topic 2, who am I? Topic 3, who am I? Now topic 4, who is God? Okay, so let's open the session, the conference, for some interactive discussion. So who is God? How do you define? How do you define God? So
To be honest, no idea. Came here to learn about that. Welcome.
yeah,
I think the one with absolute knowledge and with everything good, like all good qualities.
sorry, say it again.
The one with absolute, the one who has absolute knowledge
Okay.
and like knowledge of everything, as well as the one who only has good qualities.
Okay, the one with absolute knowledge and the one with only good qualities. Okay,
Yes.
okay. Uh, anything else? Anyone?
I think somebody who has infinite power, infinite love and acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
unconditional love, unconditional acceptance, unconditional give, unconditional. Yeah, basically it's like if everything else fails in the entire world, you can rely on somebody, that is God. That's
Yeah.
how I look at it. Like it's like, yeah, you can go everywhere else, but fail. But when you think of God, when you go to God, that is success. Is how I have been thinking about God from my childhood. Yeah, but don't know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, what's the definition of God?
God, like we talked about it in our Does God Exist? So
Mhm.
God is a supreme, is above all. Um, the nature's law doesn't apply to God.
Okay.
Who doesn't have birth and death?
Who doesn't have birth and death? Yeah, even we don't have birth and death. The souls, the jivatmas, we are also eternal. We don't have birth and death.
But still we are having some body.
Yeah, when we go to spiritual world, we get spiritual body. In the material world, we have material body. When we go to spiritual world, we'll get spiritual body.
Okay.
The body dies in the material world. Body dies, and the soul transmigrates to a new body.
Remain.
Yeah. Madhu and Monica.
I think in the session 2 of Does God Exist, we have the definition of God, right? Like the supreme creator, supreme controller, supreme enjoyer. Then there
Yeah.
are four. So that's how who is God.
Yeah. Perfect. So yeah, we discussed this in session 2. Does God exist? So there we define God as Sarva Karana Karana, the cause of all causes. He is the origin of this universe and the origin of life in this universe. He is the supreme creator, supreme proprietor, supreme enjoyer, and supreme controller. So four things. So four things to define God. That's the criteria. So in today's world, we see so many self-proclaimed godmen. In India, every street has a self-proclaimed godman. Every other day, you'll see a new godman uh, appearing, and they say they are God, and people start worshiping them. But the definition of God is supreme controller, supreme creator, supreme proprietor, supreme controller, and supreme enjoyer. So he creates everything, he controls everything, he maintains everything, and he owns everything, and he enjoys everything. That's the definition. Okay, so now if we keep this if we keep this definition of God aside, the 4 criteria, if we keep this aside, so what's your general understanding of God coming from Indian background? All of us, we had, we have been following some sort of religion, or the so-called Hindu religion, or Sri Vaishnava religion, or whatever, right? Sampradaya, whatever. So we all have been exposed to some sort of religion, and we have been hearing from our parents, grandparents, and so on. We have been reading little bit since our childhood. We have been hearing little bit since our childhood about God and the spirituality and religion. So based on that exposure, so how do you define God? What's your understanding of God?
So I feel like whenever I pray to God, I get positive energy. I can just eliminate my negative energy or whatever the sadness around me. It just helps me focus on the positive things in life and move forward.
Okay. So you are saying God means energy.
Yes. Yeah.
Energy. Okay. Okay, that's good. Anyone else?
Who can love entire the universe, equal love and affection?
Okay. Okay. Who can love everybody in the universe with love and affection? Okay.
Yeah, equal love and affection.
Okay.
Without seeing you are rich or
Or
you are good or bad.
So one who loves everybody equally, unconditionally. So
Yeah.
that is God. Okay, good.
Yeah, God is somebody who removes obstacles in your way. I mean, my mom always used to tell, before you do anything, worship Ganesha. He's the one who removes all the obstacles in anything you do. So that's the definition that is stuck in my mind. God is somebody, if you pray to him, he will remove obstacles in your course.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a classic one, right? God means our problem solver.
Yes.
Problem solver. So whenever we have problems, we turn to God, and we consider him as the problem solver. We go and dump all our problems on him, and pray to him that, okay, I'll break 1 coconut or 100 coconuts if you solve this problem. So I'll come to Tirupati and take your darshan if you help me pass this interview. And so different kinds of business dealings, right? These are all business dealings. So you give me this and I give you a little bit. You give me $1,000, I give you $1. So these are all business dealings. Okay, this is the most classic one. This is the most classic understanding of God in India. Okay, anyone else?
God also means that hope, that if we have a problem, we reach kind of ask God to help us. So it's also kind of a hope for us.
Yeah, the same thing as Basu said, right? God is one who removes our problems. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also for us is a hope. Like whenever we don't find a solution, we turn to God and ask for a help. So that is, in a way, we believe that God is our hope, and God will solve our problem.
Yeah. When we don't find answers in this world, when everything else fails, when science fails, when great philosophers fail to explain things in the material world, When they don't have answers, then we turn to God. For example, COVID. No one was able to find out, why this was happening. No one imagined that entire world would go into a lockdown for 2 to 3 years. No one ever imagined that. And no one, even till today, no one knows what exactly was the cause of COVID. Some people say it's a man-made virus in laboratory, and some people say it's coming from animals. So there are different theories, and but no one clearly knows why it's happening. So when everything else fails, we turn to God. Okay. So let's see. Let me start sharing the screen. Okay, who is God? So this is just a recap of what we discussed in the last 2 sessions. Who am I? So we defined what's our true identity. We are not the material body, but spirit soul. And we discussed 5 different methods of proving the existence of soul. You can prove the existence of soul using common sense, intuition, and based on the symptoms. Yeah, symptoms. And then NDE, near-death experience, and past life memories. And then we discussed the characteristics of the soul. Soul is indestructible, individual, Sachidananda. It's full of knowledge, full of bliss, and eternal. The time of death, it transmigrates from one body to another. So at the time of death, the soul transmigrates from one body to another body, and this cycle and this keeps on going until we realize our true identity, until we have the self-realization, until we get the wisdom of the theory that we are not the body, we are the soul. And that is possible only when you cultivate this Atma Tattva. When you cultivate Atma Jnana and develop Atma Tattva, then you can have the self-realization that you are not the body, you are the spirit soul. And then you go back to God. You go back to spiritual world and you will not come back to the material world. But the modern civilization, it's all about maintaining the body and improving the health of the body. But the soul is neglected. The soul is starving, just like that analogy given in the bird and the cage. The bird is the bird is in the cage. You may have a golden cage and you may polish that golden cage every day, thinking that you are nicely taking care of the bird. But unless you feed the bird is actually not surviving. Similarly, unless you nourish the soul and cultivate this knowledge of the soul is actually starving. Soul is actually starving. Then we have a lot of scriptures that give the spiritual knowledge, the knowledge of the spirit soul. Spiritual knowledge or spiritual science means knowledge of the spirit soul. Knowledge of the spirit soul. So in India, people follow a lot of rituals and they don't know why they are doing those rituals. Just because their parents said that they are doing it. Just because their grandparents said they are doing it. But nobody knows why they are doing what they are doing. So if you don't know why you are doing what you are doing, it is simply a ritual. But if you know why you are doing what you are doing, that ritual becomes spiritual. So we need to have knowledge of why we are doing what we are doing. Who am I? What's my purpose in this world? What's my goal? Where am I going? So if you have knowledge about these, then that becomes spiritual. Otherwise, it's just a ritual. All the pujas and the fire sacrifices, anything that are performed in the Hindu temples, the so-called Hindu temples in India, they're simply rituals. If you don't know why you are doing what you are doing. So what do I mean when I say God? Definition of God. So we discussed this. Sarva Karana Karanam. God is Sarva Karana Karanam, cause of all causes, and the ultimate source of everything that exists. Supreme controller, supreme proprietor, supreme enjoyer. Okay. So there is a shloka in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is a literature containing 12 volumes, 12 cantos. They're called cantos, or you can say skanda. 12 skandhas. Bhagavad Gita is just one book, 700 shlokas, 18 chapters, 700 shlokas. It's just one book. Whereas Srimad Bhagavatam, 18,000 shlokas. 18,000 shlokas divided in 12 cantos or skandhas and 335 chapters. So it's very vast, 18,000 shlokas. So one of the shlokas from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 11. Now you can get all these from Vedabase, vedabase.io. That's the website. So if you don't have a physical copy of Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, so you can go to this website, vedabase.io. It's a website created by ISKCON, where you can find the text of all these great literature. So one shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam is Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yajnana madvayam brahmeti paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabdyate. Okay, so let's all repeat this. So I'll recite one line and you can all repeat. Vadanti tat tattva vidas.
Vadanti tat tattva vidas.
Tattvam yajnana madvayam. Brahmeti paramatmeti.
Paramatmeti.
Bhagavan iti shabdyate. Okay. So this shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam, it talks about God. It gives a definition of God. The translation. So Sagarika, do you want to read the translation?
Okay. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan.
Okay. So learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. So this shloka is defining God with three aspects. The three aspects are Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. So have you heard of these words, this terminology, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan? I'm sure everyone must have heard of this terminology. So you may not know the definition of it, but we all heard of these words, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. So let's see what are these three aspects of God. So basically this shloka is saying that one can realize God in these three different aspects. One can realize God in these three different aspects. Brahman aspect, Paramatma aspect, or Bhagavan aspect. So let's see what are these three different aspects. So Brahman means all pervading. Brahman means all pervading. So in India, or as Monica also said, right? The general understanding of God means some energy, some sort of light or energy. Some sort of light or energy. That's the definition, or that's the understanding of God. For many people, for 90% of the people, that's the definition of God. God means some light, some energy. So Brahman means all pervading. Sarvam kalu idam Brahma. Sarvam kalu idam Brahma. The whole universe is filled with energy of the Lord. Just as sun's energy is spread throughout the entire world. So the sun is situated in one place, but the energy is spread throughout the world. The same sun is maintaining this entire world by spreading its energy everywhere. Every nook and corner of the world gets sunlight. I mean, during daytime, every nook and corner of that part of the world gets sunlight. So just like how sun, while being situated in one place, spreading the energy, spreading the sunlight throughout the world, God in the form of Brahman, okay, he is situated in one place and spreading energy in the entire universe. So Sarvam Kaluidam Brahma. The whole universe is filled with God's energy. So that's the definition of Brahman, all pervading. Okay. So they say God is everywhere. We heard this many times, right? God is everywhere. So that means God's energy is all pervading. God's energy exists everywhere. God's energy exists everywhere. That's why in India, we see even the illiterate people, they, before they start their work, for example, there is a taxi driver. Okay. So in the morning, when he begins his work, the first time when he gets into the car, he touches the steering wheel and then, he does namaskara. Or the shopkeeper, when he opens the shutters of the shop, so he touches the shop and then, he does namaskara. And then he goes and touches the different articles in the shop and then does namaskara. Similarly, we see, people from different walks of life, before starting their work, they actually touch those objects or the tools that they are using in their work and then offer respect. That means they are seeing those objects or tools as energy of God, as a supply of God. They see everything supplied by God. So they may not know the definition of God and they may not know too many details about God, but at least they have respect, which is good. They have respect and they have an understanding that everything is coming from God and it's all God supplied. It's all God's energy. They're respecting that. So there is a shloka in Bhagavad Gita. Maya tadam idam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina vatstani sarva bhutani nachaham teshvavastitaha. The slides are going here and there. 1 second. Bhagavad Gita chapter 9 verse 4. it says, by me in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. So Krishna is giving definition of Brahman in Bhagavad Gita. That shloka we discussed, we read a few slides before. That shloka is from Srimad Bhagavatam. That talks about the three different aspects of God: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And Krishna himself is explaining what Brahman is in chapter 9, verse 4 of Bhagavad Gita. Maya tadam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina. Avyakta murtina. Avyakta means unmanifested. Murti means the form. In my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. So we discussed, right? Krishna is supreme creator, supreme controller, supreme proprietor, and enjoyer. So when we say supreme controller, that means he is maintaining everything. He is maintaining everything. He is maintaining all the planets rotating in their orbits with clear precision. The speed at which each planet rotates with a clear precision, that is controlled by God. And the way the living entities, the human beings, animals, the way how we are all wandering in this material world is controlled by God, is guided by God. God resides in everyone's heart as Paramatma. That's the next aspect of God that we're going to discuss. But so God controls all the moving and non-moving things. Non-moving things, for example, the planets, how they move about in their own orbit with clear precision of speed, that is controlled by God. And how the moving things, how they are wandering in the material world, that is controlled by God. God is in you and me as Paramatma. This is another feature, another aspect of God. The second aspect of God. First aspect is Brahman. Second aspect is Paramatma. So Paramatma, we all know this. Okay. So in everyone's body, there is Atma, the spirit soul, and then Paramatma, the super soul. Soul and super soul. So every living entity has these two things, whether it is a human being, animal, an insect, or a tree. Every living being has a soul and super soul. There is another thing, that the super soul exists in every atom also, in the non-moving things also. He exists as super soul. Okay. The non-moving things like rocks and all, they don't have life. There is no soul in them. But Krishna resides as Paramatma in those rocks, because Krishna as Paramatma resides in every single atom. He resides in every single atom. So we will leave that topic aside. So otherwise it can be a little confusing and complicated. So let's just focus on the fact that in every living entity, there is soul and super soul, Atma, Paramatma. We discussed in the last week class, right? Atma and Paramatma, they are like two birds sitting on the same branch of a tree. Same branch of the tree, there are two birds sitting. And Paramatma bird is always looking at the Jivatma bird. Jivatma bird is very busy in the material world, doing so many activities. And Paramatma bird is always watching. Is always watching the Jivatma bird, what he is doing. He is the witness. Paramatma is the witness of all what the Jivatma is doing. Sometimes people can, they can think that they can go to a closed room, shut all the doors, turn off the light, and if they're doing something, they think that nobody is noticing that, nobody is seeing that. But Krishna as Paramatma sitting in everyone's heart, he is watching everything, he is witnessing everything. So you can't hide anything from Paramatma. He is the witness of everything. He is the witness and also the permitter. So Paramatma bird is watching all of your actions. He's permitting what you are doing and he's witnessing. So he's looking at all your desires, and based on what you desire, he's permitting to do those activities. And he's the witness of all those activities. So this is explained in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, verse 22. Upadrashtanumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwara paramatmeti chapyukto dehesmin purushaspara. Let me hide this Zoom window. 1 second. So the translation. Madhu and Monica, do you want to read the translation? Maybe you're on mute.
Yes, yeah. Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental entity who is the Lord, the Supreme Proprietor, who exists as the overseer and the permitter, and who is known as the Super Soul.
Yeah. So Krishna himself, Super Soul here. Yet in this body there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the Supreme Proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the Super Soul. Upadrashta Anumanta. Upadrashta means witness. Anumanta is the permitter. So the Super Soul exists as the overseer and permitter. He is simply watching. Paramatma bird is simply watching the Jivatma, and he is always waiting. Paramatma bird is always waiting when this Jivatma will turn to me. The Jivatma never looks at Paramatma. Jivatma is always very busy performing various activities in the material world. Super busy. But Paramatma bird is always waiting for Jivatma bird to turn to Paramatma bird and look at him. But even though the Jivatma, the soul, does not look at Paramatma, does not acknowledge or consider, is not aware. The Jivatma is not actually aware of Paramatma sitting and watching. Even though the Jivatma is not aware of the existence of Paramatma, but Paramatma is simply sanctioning all the desires of the Jivatma. He's making everything happen. Even if you want to lift your hand like this, you need permission of the Paramatma. Anything that you want to do, you need permission of Paramatma. They say, right, not even a blade of grass moves without the will of God. Not even blade of grass moves without the will of God. That means nothing happens without the sanctioning of Paramatma. Give me a second. Okay, can you see Can you hear me now? Can you see and hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let me share the screen. Okay, so this slide, you can ignore this. These two slides you can ignore. Gets a little complicated there. So there is another shloka in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 15, 15.15. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mata smritirjnanam apohanam cha vedaishta sarvairahameva vedyo vedanta kritveda videva chaham. So let me open that verse actually on Veda base. So you go to vedabase.io for the people who are not aware of where to find Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam text. So vedabase.io, this is where you go. And then click on Bhagavad Gita. And there are chapters. Okay, chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on.
We are only seeing the keynote.
You're seeing what? Oh, you're seeing the keynote. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let me share the entire desktop. Okay. So let me share it again. Okay. So you go to vedabase.io. That's where all the literature is available. And you click on Bhagavad Gita. There are many other books, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna book, which is good for children. It's full of stories. You know, if you want to read stories to your kids, Krishna book. And then Science of Self-Realization, Srila Prabhupada Leelamrita. And if you click on all books, there are so many other books. So click on Bhagavad Gita, and then you can see different chapters, chapter 1 to 18. So now go to chapter 15. Chapter 15, the Yoga of the Supreme Person. So I have changed my settings. That's why you are seeing this this version of the screen. But when you open for the first time, this is how you will see it. You will see the verse number. Text 1 means verse number, shloka 1. And then you will see the Sanskrit text. It's a Devanagari script, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. If you are able to read that, you can follow that. Otherwise, there is English version of it. And then the word for word meaning, the translation of the English or Sanskrit shloka, and then purport. Purport is the commentary written by the founder Acharya of ISKCON, Prabhupada. Okay, so now 15, text 15. This is 15.15, chapter 15, verse 15. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto. Hridi means in the heart. Sannivishto means situated. Sarvasya, of all beings. I am seated in everyone's heart. So if you look at this translation, I am seated in everyone's heart as super soul. So there is one shloka in chapter 13 that we discussed, that we showed in the screen here, right? In the previous slide. Chapter 13, verse 23. Upadrashtanumantacha Parta Bhokta Maheshwara Paramatmeti Chapyukta Dehesmin Purushas para. So this is one shloka, and then the 15.15. These are the two shlokas where Krishna tells that he resides in everyone's heart as Paramatma. So that is Paramatma. So we discussed about Brahman and Paramatma. Now, Bhagavan. So Brahman and Bhagavan, Brahman and Paramatma. First of all, Brahman does not have a form. Brahman means it's some light or some energy of the God, energy or light emanating from God. But it's not the complete aspect of God. Brahman is the energy pervading in the entire universe. It is coming from God, but Brahman in itself is not God. It's not the complete aspect of God. And similarly, Paramatma has a form. The form of Paramatma is four-handed form, like Narayana or Vishnu. You might have seen pictures of Vishnu in someone's home. So Narayana, Vishnu, in fact, we saw in the previous slide, right? Yeah. The picture that you see here is the form of Paramatma. And it's so minute. The size of Paramatma is even smaller than soul. In the previous class, we discussed what's the size of the soul. The size of the soul is 1/10,000 of the tip of the hair. So you take the tip of the hair, you cut into 100 pieces, and then each of those pieces you cut into another 100 pieces. That's the size. One second. Okay, 1 second. I just went to get some water. Okay, and I see someone else also joined. iPhone 11. Who is that, please? iPhone 11. Okay, and I see Abhinav also. Hi, Abhinav.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, iPhone 11 is me, Tanuka.
Oh, hi, Tanuka. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Yeah. So were you there in the last class, Tanuka?
Yes, I missed the last class. Yeah, because of Diwali thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And
But I saw you posted in YouTube, so I will listen to the YouTube version. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So Abhinav, we missed you also in the last week, right?
Yes, we had our relatives for Diwali as well.
Okay.
Happy Diwali, everyone, by belated wishes.
Happy Diwali, everyone.
Yeah, belated happy Diwali, Srinivas.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's get back. So this is the form of, Paramatma, the four-handed form. So you see different objects in the four hands, right? Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, the four different objects. So this is the form of Narayana or Vishnu, and this is the form of Paramatma. So it's so minute that we cannot even see this. But one who meditates on Paramatma, a transcendentalist or a yogi who meditates on Paramatma, they can see this form. When they achieve perfection in their sadhana, they can see this form. And a person who cultivates knowledge and achieves perfection, they can realize Brahman aspect of God. And person who meditates, who does Ashtanga yoga and then meditates on the Paramatma within the heart, in the end, when they achieve perfection, they get realization of Paramatma, they can see this form. But these are not the complete aspects of God. Brahman and Paramatma, they are some aspects of God, but they are not complete aspects of God. So God, we saw, right? It's a supreme controller, supreme creator, controller, proprietor, enjoyer. That means there must be a lot to talk about God. There must be a lot to know about God. There must be a lot, that God must be doing. So that is Bhagavan feature, the Bhagavan aspect of God. Bhagavan aspect of God is the personal realization of God. It's the realization of the personal aspect of God. Brahman, Paramatma, you can consider them as impersonal feature of God. Most importantly, the Brahman, the first one, the first aspect, Brahman, is the impersonal feature of God. So there are two features of God, personal feature and impersonal feature. So Brahman is just a light or energy emanating from God. So there is no person. In Brahman aspect, there is no person. So it's just some light or some energy of God that is pervaded in the entire universe. And the transcendentalists or yogis who practice that impersonal, impersonal feature of God, they go and merge within God. They go and merge within God in the Brahman aspect. So there is not much activity in the Brahman realization. There is not much activity. So in the Brahman realization, there is only knowledge. There is only knowledge. You realize that you are not the material body, but you are the spirit soul. You will have a realization of that. You will have complete knowledge about that. But what are the other two aspects of the soul? Soul means Sat, Chit, Ananda. These are the three aspects of the soul, right? Sat, Chit, Ananda. So Sat means eternal. Chit, knowledge. Ananda is bliss. So in the Brahman realization, there is only knowledge. There is only knowledge. The Chit portion is there. So a person who achieves Brahman realization, they know that they are not the body, they are the soul. They are the eternal soul. But there is no bliss, there is no Ananda, because there is no activity there. You go and merge within God, you go and merge within the Brahman aspect of God, but there is not much activity there. You don't do anything. So over a period of time, either you fall down from that Brahman realization and come back to the material world, or you may stay there for a long time, or maybe eternally. You may stay there in the Brahman platform for a long time, or maybe eternally. But there's no ananda there because there is no activity. So now the complete realization of God is Bhagavan aspect, the supreme person, the personal feature of God. Krishna as a Shamasundara in his two-handed form, the beautiful Shamasundara form. As you can see here on the slide, Krishna is holding the flute and bending in three different places. The Tribhanga, it's called Tribhanga. Krishna bends in three different places: the neck, the waist, and his leg or ankle, actually. So three folded Shamasundara form, Tribhanga Shamasundara form. It's very beautiful. The personal form of Krishna or God is very beautiful. This is the Bhagavan aspect of God. Bhagavan means, we discussed this also, right? Bhagavan means, so let's look at the Sanskrit word Bhagavan. Bhag means opulence. Van means one who possesses. Bhag. Van means one who possesses. Bhagavan means one who possesses Bhag. In other words, one who possesses opulence is that supreme person, Krishna. This is the personal feature of God, the Bhagavan aspect of God. Out of the three, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, the Bhagavan aspect is the highest realization of God. It's the highest aspect of God. Brahman and Paramatma are lower. So we discussed an analogy last week. I think Sudhakar and Jyoti, when they were asking, so Sudhakar comes from a background where he believes that at the time of death, all the souls, they go and merge with God. That's correct, but that's not complete. What he said is correct. It's not complete. Because the complete understanding of God is that God is individual and we as spirit souls, we are individual. God is individual and we spirit souls, we have a different identity. So in the next few slides, we'll see what is our identity in relation with God. So when Sudhakar mentioned that at the time of death, the souls will go and merge with God, I gave an analogy to him to understand God. So let's say in a small village, that there is a boy and father. The small child, he asks the father, "Daddy, can you show me train? I want to see train. I have never seen train before. Can you show me train?" So then the father takes the child to the railway station, and then they wait for the train to come at the platform. So after some waiting, then the son and the father, they hear the sound of the train. From far distance, they hear the sound of the train. And the father, being impatient, father has seen the train several times. He's getting bored of waiting there for a long time. So now the God says to the child, the father tells the child that, "Beta, so you hear the sound from the train, that is train." Now, what is this child's understanding of train? The child's understanding of train is that train means sound. Train means some sound. So beyond that, he does not have any other understanding of train. But is that, if you ask, is that correct? Yes, it is correct. Train has sound, that is correct. but it's not complete. It's not the complete understanding of train. The father being impatient, he takes the child and goes home without getting the complete understanding of what the train is. Now, if the father is little more patient and waits there another few minutes, then he can see the light coming from the train. He can see the light coming from the train. He will not see the train, but from far distance again, along with the sound, he will see the light. So now he can tell the child, saying that, beta, that light that you see from far, that is train. Now that's the second level of understanding for the child, what train is all about. So now he has the first level of understanding for the child is train means sound. Second level of understanding for the child is train means light. So it has two aspects, which are correct, but they are not complete. It's not a complete understanding of the train. Now, the father being impatient, if he takes the child and goes home, the child's understanding of the train will remain with these two aspects. The child's understanding of the train is limited to these two aspects, the sound and light. Beyond that, the child has not seen the train and he does not have any idea of what the train is complete in itself. So now if the father waits even more longer, then he can see the train. The child can see the train and a lot of different bogies, different compartments of the train, and the people sitting in the train and all the different activities that are happening in the train. So there is so much that's going on. There's so much fun that's going on in the train. So now the child will feel satisfied. Child will really feel satisfied because he has the complete understanding of the train. He sees the big gigantic form of the train, the different compartments of the train, and the people, the activities happening. There's so much of fun. So that gives a great experience to the child. So the three aspects are correct, but only the Bhagavan realization of God is complete. That's the personal feature of God, personal form of God. So in simple words, if somebody asks you, is God a person? Yes, God is a person. God is a person. Now, when I started my journey in ISKCON, this was a great revelation to me. God is a person. When I heard this statement for the first time, it was an eye-opener to me. I felt as if I was hearing some, the eighth wonder of the world. We all heard about 7 wonders of the world. Taj Mahal, all those Great Wall of China, all those things. But when I heard this statement, God is a person, it was like an eye-opener, as if I was hearing some very precious thing. That was my feeling 10 years ago when I attended these classes in ISKCON. That was my feeling. Because prior to that, I never had a clear definition of God. I never had a clear understanding of God. Just like in the beginning of the session, I asked all of you, how do you define God? What's your understanding of God? So none of you could answer that clearly. So one person said, so we are here to learn that. Basu said, that's what we are here for, to learn who is God. What's the definition of God? And someone else said, Monica said, God means energy. And Kalpana said, God means one who is all loving everybody equally and unconditionally. So like that, different people gave different definition of God. So if you ask anyone in India, who is God? 99% of them, they will not have clear answer. Either they may not have any answer or they will have some vague answer. Because they have not heard from the proper source, what's the definition of God? They heard something from their parents or from the pujari, from the temple that they are visiting every once in a while, or from a grandparents, or based on what they read or heard. They have some vague understanding of God. God means either light or energy or something. But they don't have a clear definition of God, clear understanding of God. So in simple words, God means a person. He's a person like us, two-handed form, a beautiful Shama Sundara form, two-handed. And for some other people, God means the four-handed Narayana form, right? Vishnu. For the people who worship Narayana or Vishnu, their understanding is God has four hands, holding Shankha, Chakra, Gada, and Padma. That's another understanding of God. But even higher than that is God has a two-handed form just like us. Now somebody may question, oh, how is that possible? How can God have a form like us? It's not the question of God having a form like us. We are having a form like God. We are having a form like God. So even in Bible, it's mentioned, man is made in the image of God. Man is made in the image of God. That means man's form or the features of the man look similar to God. When God created human beings, he created similar to his image. Similar to his image means two-handed form. Two-handed Shama Sundara, beautiful form. So it's a big debate or discussion that happens all the time. That does God have a form or no? Is God nirguna or saguna? So the clear answer is God has a form. He has a personal form. He is a person. He is saguna. He has a form and qualities. A lot of people say God is nirakar and nirguna. Nirakar means no akara, no form. Nirguna means no qualities. No qualities. So is everyone with me so far? There is silence.
No, got it. Yeah.
Okay. Good. I see thumbs up. Any questions? Any questions or any points of reflection on what we discussed so far? Okay, so moving on.
Prabhu, Monica wants to know, why do we have so many gods? Like if we say that God has like this particular definition.
Sorry, say that again.
Like speak loud. Why do we have so many gods? Like are all those gods, or we are just praying them as gods, but there are only few gods?
So why do
is
we
it like
have
there's
so many
only one
gods?
God?
Yeah, why do we have so many gods? That's another understanding of God in India, right? Most of the Hindus, for them, if you ask who is God or what is God, they say there are 33 crore devatas. 33 crore devatas, 33 crore gods. So why there are so many gods? Is God one or many? Okay, so yeah, we'll discuss that in a bit, but let me go back to the slides here and see what's the flow. yeah, this is describing the personal feature of God. Okay, so so in this material world also, right? Everyone is attracted to certain qualities. So what are some of the qualities that we are all attracted to? Can some of you mention some qualities that we are all attracted to?
Someone who is friendly and nice.
Okay, friendly and nice. Okay. What else?
And beautiful.
Hmm?
Kind and beautiful.
Kind and
Appearance, beautiful.
beautiful. Okay. Yeah. Kind and beautiful. Anything else? Powerful. Right? Powerful. One who has a lot of strength. So who has a lot of strength or ability. I remember in my childhood days, there used to be some competitions, some funny competitions, like who can eat the most number of idlis. Okay. So like somebody would cook like 200, 300 idlis, and there would be a competition between two people. I vaguely remember I also participated in one of such competitions. So I think it was something to do with eating idlis or something, or bananas, something. So there are weird competitions like that to prove who is powerful, who is powerful, who is mighty. And when you see the powerful boxers fighting in the boxing ring, so that shows their strength. Or an expert athlete participating in sports, so we get attracted, looking at their ability, looking at their great ability, we get attracted. If someone is beautiful, naturally we get attracted to them. Someone is rich, we get attracted to that richness. Someone is kind, soft spoken, friendly, naturally we are all attracted to those qualities. So these are some of the qualities that we are attracted to people in this material world. Even if they have these qualities to a small extent, we are attracted. Now God is that person, Bhagavan, in his complete realization of God. Bhagavan means one who possesses all the opulences. So what are those opulences? There are 6 opulences that is described in the shloka here from Vishnu Purana. Aishwaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashasha shriyaha jnana vairagyayos shannam bhagam itingana. Bhagavan means who possesses these 6 opulences in full. All riches, all strength, all influence, all wisdom, all beauty, all renunciation. So when they say all riches, all strength, all influence, all wisdom, all beauty, all renunciation, that means that opulence incomplete. All riches means richness incomplete. All strength means strength incomplete. Complete strength, complete knowledge, complete wisdom, complete beauty, complete renunciation, or renunciation in full. Richness in full, strength in full, full knowledge, complete knowledge, full knowledge. So people in the material world, they also possess these qualities or these opulences to some extent, to a minute extent. Like the rich people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, they possess the richness to some extent. The richness that they possess compared to the richness of God is nothing. It's like a mustard seed compared to a gigantic ocean. The size of mustard seed is almost negligent. When compared to the size of the ocean, the size of mustard seed is almost negligent. So that's the comparison between the richness of the people in the material world versus the richness of God. So God possesses all these opulences in full. That's why he is Bhagavan. So all richness, all fame, he is famous in the three worlds, the three planetary systems, Swargaloka, Bhuloka and Patalaloka. Krishna is famous everywhere in all the three planetary systems. His name and glories, his name and pastimes are glorified by so many great saintly persons, even till today. So when Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago in Dwapara Yuga, so he stole butter from gopis' homes. And even till today, we are discussing that, and we are experiencing some joy. When we discuss Krishna as Makan Chor, when we discuss those activities of Krishna as Makan Chor, going to different gopis' homes and stealing butter, we get happiness. The same activity, the stealing activity, if somebody performs in the material world, then that person will be sent to a jail. Whereas Krishna as Makan Chor, when he steals butter from neighbors' homes, gopis' homes, that is glorified. That activity is glorified. He's famous. Even till today, we are discussing those. All strength. So Krishna lifted Govardhan hill when he was 7 years old. And how did he lift that? He lifted that on his pinky finger, on his small finger, tip of the small finger. And he held that Govardhan hill 7 days and 7 nights like that. So at the age of 7, he lifted Govardhan hill with his pinky and held it like that for 7 days and nights. So all strength. He has all the strength. He's so powerful. That's why he's known as Almighty. You know, Almighty. That's a famous word we all use to refer to God. Sometimes people, they don't want to call God as God because they don't want to, completely acknowledge God. So that's why they use different phrases to refer to God. They say Almighty. They say Almighty. That's one quality of God. Almighty means he possesses all the strength. That's one of his opulences. All beauty. He possesses all the beauty. He is the most beautiful. Now we know about Cupid, right? We're all attracted to Cupid. Cupid is very beautiful. The Madan Mohan. Madan Mohan or Cupid is very beautiful. Everyone is attracted to Cupid. But that Cupid, who is known as Madan Mohan, he is attracted to Krishna. That's why Krishna is known as Madan Mohana Mohana. Madan Mohana Mohana, one who attracts even the Madan Mohan. One who attracts even the Madan, the Cupid. And he possesses all the knowledge. And Krishna gave that knowledge, the essence of all the Vedas, in the form of Bhagavad Gita. He spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, and we are all learning Bhagavad Gita in the disciplic succession. And all renunciation. He possesses complete renunciation. Despite having the other 5 opulences in full. See, Krishna possesses all the richness in the 3 worlds. Krishna possesses all the beauty in the 3 worlds. He possesses all the strength in the 3 worlds. and he is famous in all the three worlds. Despite possessing all the other five opulences in full, he renunciates all of that. He renunciates all of that. So what is renunciation? Renunciation means sacrificing or rejecting, tyaga, and living like a, like a sannyasi life. So that picture here on this slide, it depicts Krishna's renunciation. So he is the most powerful, he's the most richest person, and he is the most beautiful person. He's the most famous person. He has the complete knowledge. Such a great person, he comes down to the level of ordinary human beings, and he is acting as a chariot driver for Arjuna. He's acting as a chariot driver for Arjuna. Arjuna is sitting in the chariot. He's shooting arrows in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and Krishna, he is driving the chariot. So Krishna is ready to take such a menial position, the position of a servant. He's ready to serve his devotees in such a menial position. So that great person who has all the richness, all the beauty, all the knowledge, and who is most famous in all the three planetary systems, he is ready to come down to the level of ordinary human being. He's ready to renunciate everything and lead a life of a sannyasi. Who can do that? If a person is rich, like if you ask Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates, if you ask him to drive your car from your home to Amazon office, will he do that? No, he will not do that. But a person, when such a great person, when he comes down to the level of ordinary human beings and becomes approachable, he becomes very sweet. Krishna is great and sweet, both. When a great person becomes approachable, he becomes sweet. The President of United States is undoubtedly great, but his greatness becomes sweet when he becomes approachable. Like when he becomes approachable to his grandson, and he starts playing with his grandson, then the president is approachable. He becomes sweet. Such a great person, he is coming down to the level of a small child and playing with him, then he becomes sweet. So these are the 6 opulences of God. Bhagavan, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in Bhagavad Gita, most of the times, Srila Prabhupada, who wrote this Bhagavad Gita as it is, he refers to Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Supreme Person. There are 330 million devatas, 33 crore devatas, but Krishna is the Supreme Person. Now we'll discuss about the 33 crore devatas and what's their relation with the Supreme Person Krishna. We'll discuss that little later. But I just want to emphasize on the point here that in Bhagavad Gita, you will see most of the times Srila Prabhupada, who is a founder Acharya of ISKCON, he refers to Krishna as Supreme Person, as Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this term, it might be new to many people, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, I never heard of that before coming to ISKCON. We heard of the word Bhagavan, or maybe Supreme Person sometimes, but we never knew what Supreme Person means, or Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Supreme Creator, Supreme Controller, Supreme Enjoyer, original source of everything. Supreme creator, supreme controller, supreme enjoyer, and supreme proprietor. Original source of everything, who has no other source. Sarva Karana Karanam. So he is the cause of the tree and the seed, both. Most of the times this debate happens, right? Is the tree first or the seed first? Is the chicken first or the egg first? But Krishna is first. Krishna is first, from whom comes everything. He is the cause of both seed and the tree. He is the cause of both egg and the chicken. Sarva Karana Karana. And he has no cause. He is beyond all causes. He has no cause. Bhagavad Gita declares Lord Krishna as Bhagavan. Now, when we say Bhagavan, there has to be a name, right? Because we discussed Bhagavan means it's the personal feature of God, personal aspect of God. And when there is a person, there must be a name. Just like I have a name, you have a name, all of us on the call, we all have names. Similarly, that person, when we say God is a person, that person should also have name. And the name of that person is Krishna. Name of that person is Krishna, Bhagavan. The very word Krishna means all attractive. The Sanskrit word Krishna means all attractive. Karshati iti Krishna. The word Vishnu means all pervading. The word Vishnu means all pervading. Similarly, the word Rama means full of reservoir of pleasure. The word Rama means reservoir of pleasure, reservoir of joy, pleasure. Ramanti iti Rama. Ramanti iti Rama. Ramanti means pleasure. Rama, the word Rama means pleasure or joy. Vishnu means all pervading. Rama means all pleasure. Similarly, Krishna means all attractive. So in Bhagavad Gita, we see when we read the verses, there will be the name of the person who is speaking that verse. So there are different characters, who spoke different shlokas in Bhagavad Gita. So there are some verses that are spoken by Arjuna. There are some verses that are spoken by Sanjaya. Some verses are one verse spoken by Dhritarashtra. So when Dhritarashtra speaks, it says, Dhritarashtra Uvacha. Uvacha means speaks, spoken or speaks. Arjuna Uvacha means that shloka was spoken by Arjuna. Sanjaya Uvacha, that shloka spoken by Sanjaya. Now, whenever Krishna speaks, it does not say Shri Krishna Uvacha. It says Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. That means Krishna is Bhagavan. Krishna is Bhagavan. So wherever you see Shri Bhagavan Uvacha in Bhagavad Gita, that means it's spoken by Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said. So there are some other shlokas from Bhagavad Gita where the definition of God, Supreme Creator, Proprietor, Controller, Enjoyer, they are given. We don't need to go into details of these, okay? So we'll just skip through this. So you just have an understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Controller, Proprietor, Enjoyer, and Control, and the Creator. We will discuss all these shlokas in the systematic study of Bhagavad Gita. After the Discover Yourself DYS, after these 7 topics are over, we will start discussing each and every verse from Bhagavad Gita. So that time we can discuss all these in detail. Otherwise, in the beginning stage, it might be too complicated and confusing. It might appear like you are digesting too many facts and information. So I don't want that to happen. You just get a high level overview of Bhagavad Gita. So this is another shloka where Krishna says, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. So Krishna himself is declaring all this. Now, when you see Krishna himself saying this, you might question, okay, how can I believe, what Krishna is saying? Or because Krishna is speaking, maybe he is boasting about himself. Maybe he is just speaking about himself. Now, if there is another person, like for example, there is Ganesha. Let's say Ganesh Gita. Vinayak or Ganesh Gita. Ganesh also can say that I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. Now, if you read that, you are forced to believe that Ganesha is the supreme. But the fact is, there is no other literature, or there is no other source or literature where a different personality has said that I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. Nobody has said like this. And who can tell more better than that person himself? If you want to know about president, you directly hear from the president of the country. If you ask different people, they may say different things, partially correct or not correct. But if you hear directly from the horse mouth, if you hear directly from the president of the United States, you can know everything about that person in full. Similarly, when Krishna is telling about himself, that means he's the best person to talk about himself. No other person. He's the source of Brahma, Narada, and all other 33 crore devatas. Even in Brahma Samhita, Brahma says, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karana. So even Brahma, Lord Brahma, he himself declares that Ishvara Parama Krishna. Ishvara means that supreme controller. Parama Krishna. Krishna is that supreme. Parameshwara. If you look at the first two words, Ishvara, Parama, that means Parameshwara. Ishvara means controller. Parama means supreme. Parameshwara means supreme controller. So Brahma is saying Krishna is Parameshwara. Ishvara, Parama, Krishna means Krishna is that Parameshwara, supreme controller or supreme God. Most of the times when we hear the word Parameshwara, who do we think of?
God.
No, when we hear the word Parameshwara, so what's the first?
Shiva.
Shiva, yes. Yeah. So Shiva is also supreme. He has a special role in the supreme context. Shiva is also supreme, but he has a different role. But the ultimate, the supreme God or supreme controller, the Parameshwara is Krishna. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme Godhead. He has eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin. And he is the prime cause of all causes. Now in Bhagavad Gita, the previous slide where we saw, Krishna mentioned, I am the source of everything. There Krishna himself declaring, right? That I am the supreme enjoyer, supreme controller. In different shlokas in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself talking about himself. Now, if there is somebody who does not want to believe what Krishna himself saying about himself, if you think that just because he is talking about himself, he can write anything or he can speak anything. Now, for people who do not want to believe what Krishna says, like here, this is spoken by Krishna. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. This is the shloka from chapter 10 from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattha sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Everything emanates from me. Krishna saying himself. So somebody does not have faith in what Krishna is saying. If they think that, oh, just because Krishna is talking about himself, he can say anything. Now, for those people, we have other references. For those people, we have other references. Like Lord Brahma himself declaring Ishvara Parama Krishna. In Brahma Samhita, this shloka comes from Brahma Samhita, spoken by Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma himself is declaring that Krishna is Parameshwara. And there is another shloka from Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. There's no truth superior to me means he is the ultimate. He is the absolute truth. So what is absolute? Absolute means there is nothing beyond that. There is nothing beyond that. So some of the qualities of Krishna as Bhagavan is majestic, supreme creator, proprietor, knower, supreme enjoyer. He's sweet, sweetest of all, the most loving and lovable person. As Kalpana said in the beginning, right? God means a loving person, one who loves everyone equally and unconditionally. God is not partial. He is not partial to some people. He is not partial to people who worship only him. He loves everybody equally. But we are the ones who do not acknowledge that and who do not reciprocate with God equally. He is the most perfect friend, son, husband, lover. So there is a verse in Bhagavad Gita that says, Shuhrudam Sarva Bhutanam. Suhrudam Sarva Bhutanam. Sarva Bhutanam means of all living entities. Suhrudam means he is the best friend of all living entities. Suhrudam, he is the best friend. The real hero, my sweet Lord. Okay, now we come to a point after understanding the three aspects of God, Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. Now we come to a point where we discuss about the many gods. Is God one or many? As Madhu asked, right? Why there are so many gods? Why there are so many gods? So it's almost 1 o'clock. It's 3 minutes to 1 o'clock. I think we'll stop here. I still have another 20 slides. So we'll continue the rest in the next class. And before we wrap up, any questions? Any questions or any points of reflection from anyone?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't follow when you said Shiva is also supreme, but Krishna is Parameshwar. Can you say that again?
He's also supreme, but what?
No, there was a reference where when we think about Parameshwar, we think of Shiva, but it's
Shiva.
Krishna.
Yeah.
You gave
Yeah.
some explanation. I couldn't follow that. Can you say that again?
Yeah. So generally when we hear the word Parameshwara, so we immediately think of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is Parameshwara. But the true Parameshwara is Krishna. See, the Sanskrit meaning of Ishvara means controller. Parama means the supreme. Parameshwara means supreme controller. So by definition, God is the supreme controller. And Bhagavan, Krishna, as Bhagavan, he is the supreme person. He is the supreme controller. Because the 4 criteria for God: supreme creator, supreme controller, proprietor, and enjoyer. So by definition, God is supreme controller, Parameshwara. So here we are declaring that Krishna is God, the supreme God. So by definition, Krishna is supreme controller. But Shiva, Lord Shiva also has a special position in the context of the supreme being. He has a special position. So Krishna in the spiritual world, Lord Shiva in the spiritual world, he is also supreme. But when he comes in contact with the material nature and he descends to the material world, then he takes a different form. So it's a Sadashiva form in the spiritual world. Sadashiva means eternally he is Shiva. And when he comes in contact with material nature for the purpose of annihilation, when Lord Shiva does that Tandava Nritya, the dance, Tandava Nritya, then everything is annihilated. And there are different forms of Shiva in the material world for different purposes. So we'll discuss this in more detail in the next class. The topic is polytheism. Polytheism means many gods. And Shiva, Brahma are also part of those many gods. Shiva, Brahma, Ganesha, Saraswati, all those different gods. There are 33 crore devatas. So who are these 33 crore devatas and what is their relation with the supreme God or God? God is only one. You can say supreme God, but God means only one. So what is their relation? What is the relation of these 33 crore devatas with God? That we will discuss in the next week class. So it will be more clear that time. What is Krishna, what is Shiva's role as a supreme? That will be clear in the next class.
And one more question. You briefly talked about Vishnu and Rama and Krishna. I mean, all these have same form. So, but why do we use Krishna as the Lord Supreme, Lord, like Supreme Controller, not Vishnu?
Yeah. So that's another understanding, right? In Hindu religion or among Indians, Vishnu is the supreme. That's the general understanding. They say Tad Vishnu Paramam Pada. Tad Vishnu, Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Pada. So they consider Vishnu as the supreme. But if you take Bhagavad Gita, that shloka that we saw, few slides before, right? where Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. I am the source of everything in the material and spiritual worlds. Krishna himself is declaring. And then the next slide, Lord Brahma himself is declaring, Ishvara Parama Krishna. Krishna is Parameshwara. So Lord Brahma himself is declaring. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasadev, he is declaring, saying that Krishnastu Swayam Bhagavan. There is a shloka in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, where the different incarnations of God are given. Different incarnations, like all the Dashavataras, Matsya Kurma, Varaha, Vamana, Narasimha, Parashurama, all the Dashavataras, and then there are 10 other avatars. So all the different avatars of Krishna, avatars of God are given. And in that chapter, they say all these avatars come from Krishna, who is Swayam Bhagavan. Krishnastu Swayam Bhagavan. Krishnastu Swayam Bhagavan. So Srimad Bhagavatam is also declaring that Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. Bhagavan means he is the supreme person. So it does not say, nowhere it is mentioned, Vishnu Swayam Bhagavan. Or in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna did not say that Vishnu is Swayam Bhagavan. Or Vishnu, everything comes from Vishnu. He did not say that. He said, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. Everything comes from me. So you go to any literature, any scripture, they all point to Krishna as supreme. But over a period of time, different sampradayas, based on their level of faith, Vishnu has become supreme. Like Sri Vaishnava, the people who follow Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, there are 4 Sampradayas. Okay, we'll discuss that at some other time. There are 4 different Sampradayas. Sri Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, Madhva Sampradaya, and Kumara Sampradaya. There are 4 Sampradayas. So among these 4 Sampradayas, the Sri Sampradaya people are Sri Vaishnava, the so-called Sri Vaishnava people, like Chinnajaya Swami, right? And his followers. They believe that Vishnu is the supreme. They worship Krishna also, but they believe that Vishnu is the supreme. But nowhere it is mentioned. Nowhere it is mentioned that Vishnu is the supreme. You ask them whether it is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. Nowhere it is mentioned as Vishnu is the supreme. Now when Krishna, everybody, even the Sri Vaishnava people, even the Chinnajaya Swami and his followers, they all acknowledge Bhagavad Gita. And they all acknowledge that Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Krishna. Now Krishna himself is saying, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. Everything emanates from me. What more proof do you need than that statement that everything comes from me? When Krishna himself is saying, and which is cross-verified by what Lord Brahma is saying, Ishvara Parama Krishna, and what Vedavyas is saying in Bhagavatam, Krishnastu Swayam Bhagavan. You take any literature, they all point to Krishna as supreme person. So the problem is we don't without reading the scriptures or without verifying from the scriptures, if we hear somebody saying that Vishnu is the supreme, we believe in that.
So the, like we say, right, like there are 10 avatars and Krishna is one of the avatara, Rama is one of the avatara, and the, like, so are you saying these are not, are they true as well, or are they also, like, I'm trying to understand. So at least my understanding is
They are
Vishnu
all
has 10
avatars of Krishna.
avatars.
They are all avatars of Krishna. Even Vishnu is an avatar of Krishna.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll discuss the role of Vishnu and Shiva and Brahma in the next class. It will be more clear during that time. But the short answer is Vishnu also comes from Krishna. Krishna is the supreme,
Okay.
from whom all other avatars come from, including Vishnu. Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, everybody.
So far, we have been hearing that from Vishnu, these avatars, all incarnations happened, like Vaman, Parshuram, Ram, Krishna.
Yeah.
So isn't that true? Like Vishnu's, these are not Vishnu's incarnation?
These are Krishna's incarnations, not Vishnu.
Okay.
There are Krishna's incarnations. So you read Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 1, Canto 1, chapter 3, where all these avatars are described. And then in the end, it is mentioned, Krishnastu Swayam Bhagavan. All these avatars come from Krishna, and Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. He is self-God. Yeah, these are all avatars of Krishna. And Krishna incarnates as Vishnu for the purpose of creation. Krishna incarnates as Shiva for the purpose of annihilation or destruction. And Brahma comes from Vishnu. From the navel of Vishnu, a long lotus stem appears, and from the top of the lotus stem or from the lotus flower, Brahma appears. So Brahma comes from Vishnu. Vishnu comes from Krishna. Shiva also comes from Krishna. So we'll discuss this in more detail next week. Anything else? Anyone? So this can be a different perspective, right? Different perspective, or a new piece of information, or like an eye opener, or it's shaking. It's like shaking our bodies. Something all of a sudden coming and shaking our bodies, because all this while 30-40 years in our life, we have been hearing different thing, and now all of a sudden we hear a different thing. We experience and we hear a different thing. It's definitely some kind of shaking experience. There was a joke, a small story that so one day or one night, a person, he wants to go from one place to another place in Delhi, and then he calls a taxi. So he sits in the taxi, and then for almost 1.5 hours or 2 hours, the taxi driver, he does not speak anything. He's very quiet. He's simply, driving the taxi, and very quiet. Now the person, this passenger, getting bored after 1.5 hours, he's bored, and he wants to make sure that this person, this taxi driver, can actually speak. He's alive and he can speak. So he puts his hand on his shoulder. The passenger from the back, he puts his hand on the shoulder of the taxi driver. And the taxi driver, he's very scared. All of a sudden, he gets very scared, and he looks back and he realizes that there is a person. So all of a sudden he gets very scared, and he lost control of the driving, and then he parks the taxi on the side. So it's like as if he was about to hit a big tree or something, and about to happen a big accident. Now this passenger, he's shocked with this behavior. I just shook his shoulder just to make sure that he's alive and he's able to speak. Now, what is this reaction from this taxi driver? He asks him. So the taxi driver says that, sir, for last 20 years, I have been transporting the dead bodies from one place to another, because he works in the mortuary. He works in the mortuary of a hospital. So he says, for last 20 years, my job has been transporting dead bodies from one place to another. So now in the last 20 years, the dead bodies, they did not speak anything. They did not shook my hand. They did not say anything. Now, all of a sudden, when you shake my hand, I was so fearful that a dead body came alive and there's a ghost speaking to me. So that was his reaction. So similar to that, when we hear, since in our last 30, 40 years, we have been hearing different things from our parents or from our elders. We have been hearing different things. Now, when you hear for the first time that Krishna is the supreme, Vishnu comes from Krishna, it can be similar to what that taxi driver has experienced, like a shaking experience. And it's good. If that is happening, it's good. So we'll know more in the next class. So before we wrap up, one last time, anyone has any other thing to say? Okay, if nothing else, we'll conclude the call here. Thank you everyone for joining. Hare Krishna. We'll see you in the next
Hare
class.
Krishna, brothers.
Hare Krishna. See you next
Hare
week.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank
See
you.
you all.
Hare
Bye.
Krishna.
Yeah, bye.